Thank you very much, and thank you, Shobit, for those introductory words. This was an initiative really of Shobit's, and I take very little credit. He approached me first with this idea, and I'm very pleased to say that the response was as good as it's turned out to be. There were half a dozen other young parliamentarians who simply wouldn't meet the deadline, and so we finally decided to leave them on the wayside. I hope when they see the quality of the contributions that did make it, that we might have them clamoring to be included in a second edition. But I'm very, very pleased that we have the outstanding group we have. And Shobit said that Sudhir Tailang is sitting here still smiling. The honest truth is, after seeing his cartoons, it's a miracle all of us are smiling, the politicians. But anyway, we were joking about the fact that you can't have a book event without a book reading. But rather than making introductory remarks, I thought I'd just read a few paragraphs from my introduction to the book. A large chunk of the introduction has appeared in the latest issue of Outlook magazine as a sort of essay on the future, so I won't repeat that. But just to give you a little bit of what the book is all about, I'll just start with the first few paragraphs of this book. The young parliamentarians who've authored the dozen essays in this book have taken on a broad sweep of the nation's problems. Anant Kumar Hegde discusses agriculture, education, and the environment. Anurag Singh Thakur focuses on national security. Hamdullah Saeed, the youngest of the lot, concentrates entirely on education. Jay Panda, amongst the oldest, discusses economic growth. Well, I had to rub it in. Including the inevitable comparisons with China, education and caste politics. Jyotiraditya Scindia's emphasis is on inclusive growth, with special reference to agriculture, education, and social justice. Kalikesh Narayan Singhdeo discusses hunger, corruption, and political change, particularly welcoming the role of regional parties. M.B. Rajesh offers a critique of economic reforms and suggests an alternative approach to addressing the urgent problems of inequality. Milind Deora examines development at a time of rapid urbanization. Nishikant Dubey seeks to bridge the urban-rural divide, particularly in skills, health, and tourism. Poonam Benjat covers corruption, agriculture, education, human development, and women's empowerment. Priya Dutt Ronkon discusses education, health, and the welfare of women and children. And Sanjay Jaiswal examines manufacturing, health, and clean energy. This is an impressive list, and it points to the urgent concern with India's compelling problems that animates young Indian leaders across the country's political divides. The contributors span the spectrum from left to right, represent both the government and the opposition, and hail from both rural and urban constituencies. Their essays offer a good idea of the range and breadth of what young Indians with an eye on the future believe matters as they navigate their way through the national political minefield. For India's challenges are considerable, and there's a reason why we're still emerging, rather than, as President Obama so flatteringly put it in his November 2010 address to Parliament, already emerged. Our teeming cities overflow, while 2 out of 3 Indians still scratch a living from the soil. We have been recognized for all practical purposes as a leading nuclear power, but 400 million Indians still have no access to electricity, and there are daily power cuts even in the nation's capital. We are the world's leading manufacturers of generic medication for illnesses such as AIDS, but we have 2.3 million people living with HIV/AIDS, another 2 million with tuberculosis, tens of millions with no health center or clinic within 10 kilometers of their places of residence. India holds both the world record for the number of cell phones sold and also for the number of farmer suicides, an estimated 15,000 per year, because when harvests fail, farmers are crushed by a crippling mountain of debt and feel the only way out is to take their own lives. I'm skipping a little bit, but you'll get the sense of the overall. Where do young political leaders in India fit into this uncertain world? India is a remarkably young country. The nation's average age is 28. Indeed, 66% of the population is under 35, which means that the young are already a majority in India. But they are not the ruling majority. According to The Economist, India holds the world record for the largest gap between the average age of the population, 28, and that of the cabinet, 65. The young are entering leadership positions, but still with diffidence, and they continue to be outnumbered by their seniors. And yet India's youth population could be an asset unlike any other. We have a great demographic advantage in 600 million young people under 25, which means we should have a dynamic, youthful and productive workforce for the next 40 years when the rest of the world is aging. But we also have 60 million child laborers, and 56% of the children in our government schools drop out by the 8th standard. We have trained world-class scientists and engineers, but 350 million of our compatriots are illiterate, and we also have more children who have not seen the inside of a school than any other country in the world does. Many of our urban youths rightly say with confidence that their future will be better than their parents' past, but there are Maoist insurgencies violently disturbing the peace in 165 of India's 629 districts, and these are largely made up of unemployed young men. The government of India is conscious of the need for rapid change. As a freshly elected member of parliament myself in 2009, I recall Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, then 78, urging us to always respect the impatience of the young. India's under 35s are a generation that holds our nation to new, higher standards befitting the globalized era, standards that they understand prevail in the developed world. They are a generation born in the era of liberalization, growing up with greater freedoms, more choices and opportunities than their forebears, impatient with the heavy hand of government, and tired of shop-worn rhetoric about socialism and upliftment of the masses. They want action, not slogans, results, not bromides. And yet there is a significant gap between the political process and the participation in it of India's brightest young sons and daughters. This is a separation which is intolerable and one which can only be ignored at our own peril, both at the individual level and the level of the nation. But change is in the air. More educated young people are beginning to think the previously unthinkable and contemplate a political career. So that's just a taste of my overview of the book. And you have here a group of young MPs who have all made contributions, thoughtful contributions in the volume that I hope you will have a chance to look at. I'm going to have the pleasure of engaging them in a conversation, not specifically about what they have written in their chapters, because those you can read, but about the kinds of issues that I've touched upon in the bits that I've read aloud to you.